Hey friend, welcome back to Align Vitality. I'm Tanya and I'm genuinely so glad you're here for this one because today I want to talk about something uh, a little unusual for this show, but it really stopped me in my tracks and was such a profound message. I had to share it. You may have seen a video clip circulating online, maybe on Instagram or YouTube, of a comedian named Theo. I would guess many of you have heard of him. And he was responding to someone who was struggling with addiction and asking how to break the cycle of kind of bad patterns and the patterns of addiction. Now, I have to say this is kind of a guilty confession. I sometimes like to listen to shorts of Theo because he makes me chuckle. He has this sort of redneck Bubba way of talking that is funny, and it also creates a really welcoming space for all kinds of flawed humans. Now, this particular podcast episode that I'm sharing some clips from was a whole lot of other silly things, but the last probably or 1/3 of the episode was really profound in what he was sharing. I'm not sure he really fully understands the depth of what he shared. But again, he was responding to a caller who was asking how to break this cycle of addiction and kind of behaviors that just don't move you forward in a positive way. Do you want to recharge your energy, restore your mental clarity, and finally feel like yourself again? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Align Vitality, the podcast that offers faith and functional health strategies for high-achieving, health-conscious women in midlife who want to heal from chronic stress, body and spirit. I'm your host, Tanya Ingesother, a certified functional health practitioner, Christian life coach, and fellow midlife woman who knows what it's like to look strong on the outside while struggling silently on the inside. Here, we get real about anxiety, brain fog, burnout, hormone shifts, and the hidden toll of chronic stress. And more importantly, we talk about the path to healing. Each week, you'll find practical strategies and faith-fueled encouragement to help you restore your God-given energy, calm your nervous system, and reclaim peace in this season of life. If you're ready to stop pushing through and start thriving in the abundant life you were created for, let's get after it. This is Align Vitality. Now, if you're not familiar with Theo, he is a comedian and a podcast host with a massive following. He's also in recovery from substance abuse. I think it's been a couple years that he's been sober. And I've noticed recently that he seems to be a little more willing to talk about his journey in regard to his faith that has come with his sobriety and also his struggles with a kind of raw, unfiltered honesty that you don't often hear in public spaces. I definitely hear the Spirit moving in this man's heart, and I believe God is and will use him in a really big, unique way. And what an example, what a beautiful example of how God can really turn our mess into a beautiful message. Anyway, I'm gonna let you listen to a couple of clips. In this first one, Theo's talking about how he prays differently now. He talks about asking God specifically to come into the broken parts of himself, even the parts that if he's being fully honest, he isn't sure he wants to change. So I'm going to try to quick play that part of the clip first so you can hear it in his words and his voice.
I'll try to share. I've been struggling, man. The past couple years, I've had, it's been a struggle in certain ways with certain behaviors that I'm just not proud of, right? Or really just behaviors that I didn't want to do anymore. And I couldn't change it. I couldn't change the cycle. And even as I say this, I'm afraid that I'll fall back into those behaviors. But I'll tell you what for me has been helpful recently. And I'm sorry if I sound a little animated. I've been going through this in my own life recently, and it's on the tip of my thoughts and feelings. Sometimes I realized for myself, I would pray to God to help me get away from certain behaviors in my life. But at the same time that I was praying, there would be a part of me that knew I was probably going to do those things again, you know, that I was probably going to do those things again. Like, but God, please help me I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have this behavior. But there would be a little part of me that was like, I know even as I ask for God's help that I'm going to do it again. I would know that. So I started praying like this. I started praying like, God, please help me with this. This is a broken part of me that I bring to you. I need help with it. And then I would add to my prayer, I would say, and even, God, even as I pray to you right now, there's a part of me that knows I'm probably lying to you. There's a part of me that knows I'm going to do that behavior again. So can you come into that part of me and help me there? Help me in the part of me that knows as I pray that I'm lying. And I don't know if that sounds crazy or not, but I started to think that like a connection between us and a higher power, it's such the realest. It's like in my life, it's one of the realest things that I've ever witnessed, right? Like you go in, like I'll be in meetings and or recovery meetings and you see people's lives change. You see something happen. You see miracles, right? But that was what was happening. It was, I couldn't change. I tried everything. I tried everything to change. I would tell myself I'm going to do it different. I'm going to do that. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it by myself. And my whole life I'd done everything by myself. I thought I had. Uh, and so something that's just been helping me recently is just, you know, because whatever's inside of me that's broken is really, it's manipulative and it would be good at pool because it's good at the angles. But so I've just been praying that God comes into those parts of me, you know? Don't just come into like the water inside of me. Come into the well. Come into the walls of the well. Come into the mortar or whatever that's between the bricks. Because I'm broken. Because I'm broken all the way there.
Now, I thought that was a really beautiful and vulnerable way to share what real prayer and relationship looks like in the most authentic sense. But then Theo goes on to talk about a passage in the Gospel of John, the story of the man at the Pool of Bethesda.
So that's something that's been helping me because some of it's been coming true. And I don't know if it's been coming true. I don't know if that's a term, but I don't know. I'm starting to just feel something different. And then I was looking on this Bible, and there's a story called John 5, and it's about a guy who's at these pools. And some people follow the Bible, some people don't. That's fine. This is just a story that I'm reciting here. And Jesus is at the pools, and it's in Bethesda, and they're like, there's a sick man there, and he's been sick for a long time, and Jesus asks him, "Do you want to be healed?" He asks him, "Do you want to be healed?" And that's a crazy question because, if I get healed, then I'm different. If somebody gets healed, they have a new story. So that's just been something that I've been having to ask myself. It's like, yeah, do I want to be healed? Do I really want something different? And sometimes a lot of the answer is no, I don't. I want something different, but I don't want to. I don't know if I'm scared of it. I don't know what I am. I don't know if I don't want to do what it takes to get. I can't even tell what it is. And it's hard for me. Some of this stuff's a little bit hard for me to say. I think I don't even know why, but I think I want a new story.
So there it is. Theo shares that he thinks he may be ready for a new story, but he was honest about the fact that it's scary because we get used to our old story. We get used to who we've become, even when who we've become is hurting us. And he said very humbly that he didn't really have the answer. But here's what I want to tell you today, my friend. He did. He absolutely had the answer. He just didn't realize it as the answer. And that's what I wanted to unpack with you. Because this story, this question, and Theo's honest wrestling with it has something profound to say, not just to people in addiction recovery, but to every one of us who has had a pattern, a struggle, an identity issue, or an old story that we are holding on to, even while we say we want to be free. So let's go to the pool, shall we? The story is in John chapter 5. So let me just set the scene for you, which Theo already did. The Pool of Bethesda was in Jerusalem, a gathering place where people who were sick or blind or lame or paralyzed would come and wait. And the belief was that at certain times, an angel would stir the water, and the first person to get into the pool after the water was stirred would be healed. So imagine what this place looked like. Crowds of people in various stages of illness, some who had been there for days, some for weeks, some like the man at the center of this story who had been coming to this pool for 38 years. 38 years. He had been ill for 38 years. And for some portion of that time, we don't know how long, he'd been lying beside this pool waiting, almost close, but never quite getting in. And Jesus sees him lying there, and he already knows. The text says he learned that the man had been in this condition for a long time. And then Jesus asks him the question, "Do you want to get well?" Now, here's what I want you to notice, because this is where the story gets truly remarkable. The man does not say yes. He doesn't say, "More than anything, Lord." He doesn't reach out to Jesus. He doesn't even seem to register in that moment who he's talking to. Instead, he gives him an explanation. "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." He explains or gives excuses why he can't be healed. He describes his obstacle, his circumstance, the reason it hasn't worked yet. And in that response, in that very human, very relatable deflection, we see something true about all of us. After 38 years, this man's identity was no longer separate from his condition. The pool was his world. The waiting was his rhythm. The almost but not quite was his story. The people around him, the routine of it, the way his days were structured around getting to that water, that was his life. And also it probably became his way of earning a living based on his condition or his disability. And Jesus asked, "Do you want to be well?" Not can you be well, not will I heal you, but do you want to be? This is where Theo's reflection becomes so profound. He paused on that question in a way that I think took a lot of people by surprise and takes a lot of courage and self-awareness, because we expect the answer to be obvious. Well, of course the man wants to be healed. Of course anyone who is suffering wants to be free, right? But Theo, speaking from his own experience with addiction and patterns and the long, complicated road of recovery, says something like, that's actually a really kind of tough question, because being healed means a new story, a different identity. And what he was reaching for, even if he couldn't name it in that moment, is a psychological and spiritual truth that is at the root of so much of human struggle. We become who our pain has shaped us to be, and sometimes letting go of the pain means letting go of the only self that we know. The man at the pool was not just sick, he was the sick man at the pool. That was his role, his place in the world, the way people knew him, maybe the way he understood himself, likely the way that he survived. And Jesus was not just offering him physical healing, he was offering him a completely different life. No more pool, no more waiting, no more identity built around a condition and an obstacle. New movement, new story, new self. And Theo says, honestly, vulnerably, in front of a camera and a huge audience, basically, I think I might be ready for that, but it's scary because you're used to your old story. I want to just honor that for a minute, because that kind of honesty, that willingness to name the fear underneath the desire for freedom is rare. And it is exactly the kind of honesty that God meets. Now I want to bring this a little closer to home, because I know that for some of you listening, addiction recovery is not your story, but I want to ask you something. What is your story? What is your pool? What is the pattern, the coping mechanism, the identity, the old story that you have been lying beside for so long that you've stopped imagining life without it? Because for the women I work with and speak to, high capacity, driven, faith-filled professional women navigating midlife, it often isn't addiction, but it is something. It might be the identity of being the strong one, the woman who holds it all together, the one who doesn't ask for help, who people lean on, depend on, call first. And somewhere along the way, that became who you are, not just what you do, who you are. So if Jesus asked, do you want to be healed of the need to carry everything? The honest answer might be, I don't know, because who I am, or who am I, if I'm not the one who holds it all together? It might be the pattern of people-pleasing, of saying yes when you mean no, of shaping yourself to fit what the room needs from you, of measuring your worth by whether everyone around you is okay. That pattern probably started somewhere very real. It was probably adaptive at some point. It kept you safe or loved or valuable in someone's eyes. But it has also been quietly costing you for years. And if Jesus asked, do you want to be healed of this? The answer, or at least the honest answer, might be, I'm not sure, because I don't know who I am without it. Or maybe for you it's perfectionism, control, the relentless striving that has driven your career and your family and your reputation, and has also driven you into exhaustion. Whatever it is, that's your pool. And the question is the same. Do you want to be healed? Now, I want to go somewhere that I think is particularly relevant to this community, because as a functional health practitioner and a physical therapist with nearly 3 decades in healthcare, I have seen this pattern in a different, very specific way. There are women who have been unwell for so long that being unwell has become their identity. Chronic fatigue that is just who they are now, not a symptom to investigate, but a personality trait. I'm just not a morning person. I never have had energy. I've always been like this. Or gut issues that have become the explanation for every social decision. Hormone symptoms, the anxiety, the mood shifts, the weight gain, the brain fog that have absorbed into the story of self. And I say this with so much compassion, because when you have been symptomatic for years and you have tried things and nothing has fully worked, or the healthcare system has repeatedly told you that your labs are normal, it makes sense that you eventually stop expecting to feel well. You make peace with the pool. You build your life around it. But sometimes the body is sick because the soul is depleted, and sometimes the healing body requires addressing what the illness has been protecting. Because here's what I've seen more times than I can count. A woman's body breaks down in the middle of a season of chronic overfunctioning, and the illness, as unwanted as it is, quietly gives her permission to rest, permission to say no, permission to not be everything to everyone. The illness did what she couldn't do for herself. And healing, real healing, might mean that she has to find another way. She has to learn to rest without being forced to set limits without having a physical reason, to say no because she matters, not because her body gave out. That is a new story, and it can be a scary one. So if Jesus stands at the edge of your exhaustion, your symptoms, your years of almost but not quite feeling well, and asks, do you want to be healed? What does your honest answer look like? Here's the part I love the most about what Theo shared. He said he prays differently now. He doesn't just ask God to take away the bad stuff or fix the broken parts. He asks God to come into the broken parts. Even the parts that, if he's being completely honest, he isn't sure he wants changed. He brings his ambivalence to God. He brings his, I want to be healed, but I'm afraid of what that means, to God. He brings his old story, his fear of the new story, his uncertainty about who he is without his struggle, and he opens the door and says, come in here. My friend, that is the answer. Not having it figured out, not coming to God with a clean, resolved, fully surrendered yes, not waiting until you want it perfectly before you bring it to him. The answer is bringing your honest, messy, ambivalent, afraid of the new story self to Jesus and saying, I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm bringing this to you. Come into this place. The man at the pool didn't give a clean yes either. He gave excuses. He explained his circumstances. He probably had no idea he was talking to the Son of God, and Jesus healed him anyway. That is the character of the God that we serve. He does not wait for our readiness. He meets us in our ambivalence, our fear, our decades of the same pool. He just asks one thing of us: honesty. Do you want to be well? Not, are you sure? Not, have you done the work? Not, have you earned it? Just, do you want this? I want to be practical for just a moment because I think this can feel abstract if we don't bring it to the ground level. What does it actually look like to pray the way Theo described, to invite God into the parts of you that are broken, even the parts you're not sure that you want changed? I think it starts with honesty that most of us have been trained out of. We've been taught, maybe in church or in our cultures, in our families, to bring God our resolved prayers, our clean requests, our, I believe, Lord, please do this prayers. But what about the prayers that sound more like, God, I'm exhausted and I don't know how to stop. I know that rest would be healing, but I don't trust it. Come into that place. God, I have said yes to everyone for so long that I don't know who I am when I say no. I want to be free of this, but I'm afraid of who I'll be. Come into that. God, my body has been struggling for years, and I think parts of me has given up, expecting to feel well. I don't even know how to want healing anymore. Come into that place. God, I have built my entire identity around being capable and strong and not needing anything, and I am crumbling under the weight of it. I want a new story, but the old one is the only one I know. Come into that. Those are real prayers. Those are the prayers that open doors, because the invitation is not to have it all together. The invitation is to be honest. The man at the pool got up. Jesus said, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." And he did. He walked away from the pool, from the waiting, from the decades of the same place, the same almost, the same not quite. He walked into a completely different life. And later in the passage, Jesus finds him and says, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning or something worse may happen to you." Which is an interesting thing to say after a healing, but I think it points to something important. Healing was not the end of the story, it was the beginning of a different one. He now had to live differently. He had to make different choices. He had to be a different person. The new story required something of him. And I think that's true for us too. Healing, the kind that Jesus offers, is not a patch. It is not just a symptom relief. It's not getting back to the version of yourself that was grinding and exhausted but functional. It is transformation. It is becoming someone new. Someone who rests without guilt. Someone who sets limits without apology. Someone who knows their worth without needing everyone's approval. Someone who lives from abundance instead of depletion. Someone whose identity is rooted not in their struggle or their strength, but in whose they are. That is the new story. And yes, it is unfamiliar. And yes, it requires letting go of the old one. But friend, the old story has cost you enough. Let's pray together. God, we come to you the way the man came to the pool, not always with a clean yes, not always certain we're ready, sometimes still explaining our circumstances, still holding on to our old story, but we come. And we ask you to do what Theo described, to come into the broken places, not just the ones we've already handed over, the ones we're still holding on to, the ones we're afraid to let go of, the ones we've built our identity around. Come into the exhaustion we've called normal. Come into the patterns we've called personality. Come into the waiting we've called patience. Come into the struggle that we've made our story. And give us the courage to hear your question. Do you want to be well? And to answer honestly, even if the honest answer is, I think so, but I'm scared of what that means. Meet us there, Lord. We trust you with the new story. In Jesus' name, amen. Theo Vaughn told his listener that he didn't really have the answers, but I think he sure did. Bring the broken pieces to Jesus, even the ones you're not sure you want changed. Invite him into the fear and the ambivalence and the old story and the identity you've built around your struggle. That is the answer. Do you want to be healed? I hope your honest answer, whatever it looks like today, is the beginning of something new for you. Until next time, my friends, lead well, live well, and be well. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If today's episode encouraged or blessed you, would you please take a minute to leave a rating and written review on Apple Podcasts? It means the world to me, and it helps more women like you discover this message of hope and healing. If you're ready to take the next step in your functional health journey, join my interest list at alignvitalityhealth.com. And remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be medical advice, nor is it intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health. Until next time, I'm Tanya reminding you that healing is possible and your best season is still ahead.